Aye.
Looks unanimous. Cool. Next is public comment. This is an opportunity for people to speak for up to 3 minutes. Please call 888-788-0099. Enter meeting ID 954-3473-9065. To raise your hand, press 9. To unmute, press *6. City staff will select callers who have raised their hand one by one using the last 3 digits of your phone number. When speaking, please move to a quiet area, state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. There may be a delay up to 30 seconds before a connection is established. Sean, do we have callers?
We do. I'm going to leave this up for just a second. If anybody wants to call in, please take a picture of it on your phone, or write down the information really quick, and then I will stop sharing so that I can see who has their hand raised. All right, I'm going to stop sharing in 3, 2, 1. All right. And it looks like our first caller is ending in 532. Again, first call is number ending in 532. I have allowed you to speak. Please unmute. Again, caller with number ending in 532, you can unmute by pressing *6. All right, seems like we might be having some technical difficulties, so I will call on someone else and we will come back around to you if you still have your hand up later. Our next caller is number ending in 644. Caller number ending in 644. I have allowed you to speak. Please unmute by pressing *6.
My name is Kathy Boris. I live at 1726 Charlton in the 5th Ward. I have a really short comment. I'm calling in to support agenda item 250633. I agree with the Environmental Commission that the City Council should direct the Planning Commission and planning staff to incorporate the 2004 Natural Features Master Plan into the comprehensive plan that everyone is working on right now, and also that they should take actions to elevate natural features to a priority in the sustainability program. I want to thank everyone on the Environmental Commission for their work on the letter to City Council and on the resolution itself. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right. I believe our next caller is Ann Bannister, and I'm allowing you to talk. You can unmute by pressing *6.
Hello, this is Ann Bannister. Am I online now? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yep.
Okay, thank you. Like the previous caller, Kathy Boris, I am calling also to express my strong support for the resolution recommending inclusion of natural features sustainability in the Ann Arbor City Planning and Development. I hope you all will approve it as written, with my only recommendation for adding that there is no building in the remaining open floodplain land in our city. It's dangerous to build out in the open floodplain lands remaining in town in this time when we're having increased frequency and severity of rain events due to climate change. So we do need that change to tonight's resolution, but I'm happy to see that the revised comprehensive or the revised resolution does mention floodplains in passing, but it doesn't emphasize its importance enough. But the resolution tonight, the goal, as I understand it, is to ensure that Ann Arbor's future planning includes and integrates nature-based actions as essential to supporting our ecosystem, our biodiversity, and our human quality of life. I'm happy to see that you all would like to see more collaboration actually between the city's comprehensive plan and working with City Council, the Planning Commission, and the Environmental Commission to do these following things. It would be great if you all could work together to incorporate the existing Natural Features Master Plan into the comprehensive plan. It would be great to improve the Natural Features Master Plan so that it's applied to all types of future land use, not just developments that require site plans. It would be good to modify the A20 carbon neutrality plan to include actions that address natural features and biodiversity for greater sustainability, and retain and enforce existing regulations that protect trees, shrubs, and other vegetation in our historic districts. So thank you for listening. And just a reminder that a lot of Ann Arborites believe that green space benefits all of us in a wide variety of ways. And the space is found along our streets, in our city parks, as well as residential and commercial areas that have remaining open spaces. Open, impervious spaces, whether public or private, provide nature-based services that benefit all of us by slowing and filtering our stormwater, filtering our air, providing cooling shade, sequestering carbon, providing habitat, and contributing to our physical and mental health. So all of us, let's speak up for the trees, the bees, and the human beings, and not neglect Ann Arbor's green heritage. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And a reminder to all who are calling in, please keep your comments limited to around 3 minutes. Thank you. All right. Our next caller, I believe, is number ending in 411. Again, caller number ending in 411. You should be allowed to speak now. Please unmute by pressing *6.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello?
Yes,
thank you. Thank you very much. This is James Demore, and I live in the 3rd Ward of Ann Arbor, where I'm calling from my home. And I just want to echo the previous 2 speakers urging support pretty much intact with the resolution that is before you this evening. I think hearing the remarks that there are some changes requested by the planning department, there's going to be some give and take, and this is kind of more of a first reading, or at least the staff's first reading, and final action happened last month. Maybe this will give an opportunity for the commission to take a look at this, but I think I want to emphasize a concern that former council member Bannister brought up a moment ago, and that is I do hope there is some more explicit language regarding floodplain management in the plan. I was looking at the Chapter 55 regarding various levels of floodplain management and priority. It is something I think that has been neglected a little bit in terms of discussion, but otherwise you have a great document here, and I hope that the changes that is being requested don't dramatically change things very much. You have, it looks like, the hard work of many people here to get something thoughtful. I do hope that something is included, this is included in the comprehensive land use plan. I'm very concerned about page 60, which is related to parkland, that says that underutilized spaces should be considered for reassignment, possibly. I'm not using the words correctly, but I'm speaking away from my screen. Parks generally have natural features on there. They're there for a reason. and we should be very vigilant about any sort of reassignment. I think what you have in front of you is a good start in retaining the character of our city and protecting our important natural features. I just want to applaud your hard work, and I look forward to commenting more fully next month. But again, in closing, you have, I think, nearly a perfect document here. Maybe possible stronger language regarding floodplain. I'll look forward to the final document next month, and thank you for your time, and thank you for your due diligence as always. Appreciate your work. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right. I believe our next caller is number ending in 534. Again, that's number ending in 534. You should now be allowed to speak. Please press *6 to unmute.
Good evening. This is Tom Stolberg calling from 1202 Traver Street here in Ann Arbor. Calling to support your resolution. A lot has already been said that I agree with from other callers, so I'll try to be brief. This is a major revision of our comprehensive plan. Anything that doesn't make it into this comprehensive plan at this point is not going to happen. So this is vital that this gets included. Our land recognition is only words if we aren't good stewards of the land. We need this in our comprehensive plan, and we need a firmness that expresses the importance of our natural features to the future of the city. I'd also like to add my comments about the floodplain issue. It is federal and local policy not to develop new residential in the floodplain. That needs to be emphasized. I agree with other callers. The climate change is bringing to Ann Arbor, who's in a river valley, more stormwater, more frequency of severe events, and more severity in those events. There's not enough we're going to be able to do about it. We're going to be behind the 8 ball on that. So that needs to be a focus. It needs to be included as well. I thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Let's see here. Caller ending in 532. I don't see your hand anymore, but I know you were trying to speak earlier. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. Otherwise, we don't have any hands raised at the moment. Oh, there is another hand. Number ending in 134. Again, number ending in 134. You should be able to speak. Please unmute by pressing *6.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds and Chair Curtis. I'm Ken Garber. I live at 28 Haverhill Court. It sounds like second reading on the natural features resolution has been postponed. So I look forward to the discussion tonight. I only just became aware of this resolution. I want to thank everyone who worked on it. I'll just state what you probably have already heard and already know. The draft comprehensive plan is meant to replace the 2004 natural features master plan. But looking through the comp plan language, there's very little about natural features except for generalities. And some of the current language hints at weakening our current natural features protections in the name of encouraging more development, especially housing. We badly need new housing, but housing development and natural features protection can be compatible. Most new development should be in locations that will make the least ecological impact, especially on the remaining biodiversity in our city. This resolution is not prescriptive, as I read it, but should serve to call Council and Planning Commission's attention to natural features protection as the Planning Commission works out the final comp plan language. Just a personal note, where I live, Northeast Ann Arbor, just in the last few weeks, 2 areas that I've often used to find quiet and solace: the parcel just east of Nixon Road adjacent to Clague School, and the area north and west of the U of M's North Campus Research Center have been completely leveled. They now look like the surface of the moon, and all biodiversity has disappeared. Now, these are school district and university areas. They're not under the city's jurisdiction. But it's a reminder that thoughtless development continues in our city constantly. Let's make sure this doesn't happen in areas covered by our ordinances. and placing the natural features master plan or in an improved form into the comp plan, I think will serve that purpose. Thanks for considering my comments and for your public service on the commission.
Thank you for your comments. All right, we have another caller ending in 306. Again, number ending in 306. You should be allowed to speak now. Please unmute by pressing *6.
Hello, can just making sure that I'm able to be heard.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so I am in agreement with the other comments that have already spoken in favor of the resolution, in favor of preserving the natural features. I live on Georgetown Boulevard, which is right near the Thurston Nature Center, and what has happened in our neighborhood with respect to how our elected officials have basically disregarded the history of the flooding does make me certainly very hesitant with moving forward with how the comprehensive plan is written without any sort of protection for natural features. So I would like to add is please do prioritize natural features and green spaces in the comprehensive city plan. Please adopt the proposed resolution by the biodiversity subcommittee. Please do keep in mind that the preservation of green spaces in urban environments is important and healthy, both physically and psychologically. Trees do absorb heat and mitigate flooding and stormwater and erosion, all important when we're considering climate change. When you do look at cities of the future, there's a lot, or they're trying to bring in these green spaces to work as absorbing heat pockets. Green spaces and should be considered oases. They make a city more attractive, more appealing, and they provide places for outdoor recreation and overall greater psychological well-being for its citizens. Overall, I guess I would like to see the comprehensive plan being driven more by the citizens and communities of Ann Arbor and less so by the actual developers. And I would like to see that elected officials and staff have a requirement that a percentage of all these civil engineering projects do go into beautification, gardens, public art, hiking, walking trails, so that we don't wind up with just a hodgepodge of ugly buildings and concrete and asphalt and no green space. There are other progressive cities that do have this sort of requirement, and I guess I'd like to think it's reasonable and that we wind up with a beautiful place that does honor the tree city that Ann Arbor is. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. All right, and I'm seeing caller with phone number ending in 532. Once again, I've allowed you to talk. You should be able to unmute now.
Hi, thank you. This is Marta Manaldi calling. I live at 1045 Cedar Bend Drive in the First Ward of Ann Arbor. I am also calling to support the proposed resolution to include natural features sustainability in Ann Arbor's city planning and development. I understand that this document may be amended, and I will look forward to seeing the revision. But it is vital that any final resolution should be passed and should allow and require the city to have a more comprehensive and integrated approach to planning that includes important environmental policies up front from the beginning and not as an afterthought. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm not seeing any other hands, so if anyone would like to speak, please raise your hand now. All right, we have no raised hands.
Thanks, Sean. I think our next order of business is the resolution, but as you bring that up, I just want to thank all the callers for calling in. It's great to hear all your feedback. And also there are comprehensive plan feedback sessions at the different downtown libraries. There was one today, there's one next week and the following week. It's great to get your comments in there. The more comments, the better. The more different times you put it in, the better. It all helps. So just as a general introduction, I don't want to repeat everything what all our callers just said. We do need biodiversity in our urban areas. There are benefits to humans that are intertwined with our ecological health. We also understand and recognize the environmental benefits of high density housing. And as the city increases density, we must also increase protections for natural features to remain in balance. If we increase density and we don't increase our natural features protections by either keeping them the same or degrading them, and it is difficult to tell from what's in the comprehensive plan, we will end up out of balance, and that will take a long time to recover if it's ever possible to recover. So Sean, why don't you, I know everybody's probably had time to take a look at this. Why don't you just scroll through it slowly? And if people have questions or comments, please raise your hand and we will go through it that way. And the changes we made from the last month to this month, we did address some of the comments for the first meeting. We made some updates to reflect what we saw in the comprehensive plan. There was some reordering of paragraphs, and we did add footnotes to where we pulled the information from because this document's not just a collection of our thoughts and opinions. There was actually research done from a variety of different sources. Sean, is this the red line version? Looks like it might be, which is
I
good.
believe it is, yes. But
Can you open the comments or?
Yeah, they're over here on the side. They're not
Okay.
they're not showing with where they go, unfortunately. I'm not quite sure why.
If you click on the version, then there's a solid line that appears next to
There you go.
the comments, the author's comments on the right hand side.
Or if you just click on the yellow box, it puts it up on the screen too.
Pretty small to read.
I agree with you, Chris.
Where's this available?
This copy is in Legistar.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
Something you can do, Chris, to make it easier to read is you can expand your screen to blow up what Sean is showing.
Well, I'm looking on a big, large desktop screen and I still can't read it. But I can find the copy.
John Mursky, you have a comment?
Yeah. I would suggest that we focus on the comments in the therefore section. I was a member of the core team that developed this, and I sent some comments on the comments to the core team. Most of the comments related to the whereas statements, at least I personally agree with, and I think we can incorporate or at least address in a second reading. But I think the really substantive comments relate to the therefore section. So if we're, I think it's worthwhile scanning through the new version, but I really suggest that we focus on the therefore section.
Councilmember Cornell?
Totally agree with you, Mr. Mirsky. I think the public comment that we heard tonight warrants maybe dispelling some misinformation that's out there. The comprehensive land use plan does include the natural features master plan. So hearing that it needs to include this is really concerning to me because it does. It also includes the Treeline Allen Creek Urban Trail Master Plan, our comprehensive transportation plan, our Parks and Rec open space plan, our downtown plan, the State Street Corridor plan, the land use element, and our sustainability framework. And so I think some of what I heard tonight indicates that there's a lack of awareness of this, all of what fed into this. I think some of what's in the current draft also, OSI did not review this before it came to this body in this format. And so some of it reflects a request for work that OSI is already doing. And then I just wanted to, from a comment standpoint, regarding Thurston, that is an Ann Arbor Public Schools property, and the city has no jurisdiction to control what the public schools does with their land. So while I appreciate the sentiment of that caller, I just wanted to, I guess, clarify that the city's master plan does not apply to property that the public schools own. So thank you.
So just to answer a couple of comments there, the natural features master plan is listed in the comprehensive land use plan is being replaced by the comprehensive plan and not being used going forward. So that is slightly different than saying it's going to be included. It's going to be replaced and not used going forward.
Thank you. And the same is true for some of the other plans you mentioned?
Yes, that is true. Not all of them are going forward. Only a few of them are going forward. Some of them are not. I don't have a complete listing of all those. Let's keep going down to the next comment, John or Sean.
I'm not finding this, Brooks, on the Legistar, on the calendar.
Chris,
Go to the meeting minutes or the agenda for today, Chris. There's three files linked for the resolution. The resolution, the cover letter, and then the red line document. You want the red line document.
Agenda. These are a lot. That's just a printed agenda.
Just to add a comment, the reason the historic districts are on there is because Aaron Donnelly did some checking for us a few months ago, and to cut down a tree in the historic district, you need to get a permit unless the tree is diseased or they're tree trimming from city staff or DTE or somebody. You can't just go cut down a healthy tree in the historic district if it's of a certain age. We found out that they typically get 0 to 3 requests per year, and it's closer to 0 than 3. So if we have trees coming down in the historic district that are not diseased, which we don't know, we don't have the detail, they're not pulling permits. So there appears to be a gap there, and that's why that was put in there.
Yeah.
All right, and I appear to have clicked on all of the comments that are in here. If anybody would like me to go back to any of them, please let me know.
John Mursky, Commissioner Mursky.
Thank you. I don't think that we mentioned the following when we discussed this in the first reading of this resolution. And that is that the idea of incorporating natural features in the comprehensive plan was due in part to the fact that the United Kingdom has passed legislation. So it applies to the entire United Kingdom for the next 30 years, that all new development for large sites as well as small sites of a specific size must increase or maintain, or must increase. Let's see. I'll read you a summary of the legislation. The Environment Act 2021 in the UK mandates a biodiversity net gain requirement for new developments. This means developers must ensure that after a project, biodiversity values are at least 10% higher than before the development. This is achieved through a combination of on-site and off-site habitat enhancements, or by purchasing statutory biodiversity credits if necessary. The biodiversity net gain is legally secured for at least 30 years. There is also a legal enforcement requirement, and the metric uses something called the DEFRA Biodiversity Metric 4.0 to actually assess biodiversity values. And so what we're thinking here is not that we take a wholesale adoption of what the UK has done, but what we're simply saying is that if the entire United Kingdom, including larger cities like London, mid-sized cities like Ann Arbor, and rural areas can mandate an increase in biodiversity, then at least we should be, with our master plan, recognizing the values and the contributions of biodiversity and natural features here in the city of Ann Arbor. That was the first comment I had. I encourage people to look that up to see more what the UK has done. The second comment I have is with regards to this statement about the 820 Living Carbon Neutrality Plan. Just a few comments there. The plan already recognizes the carbon sequestration value of trees. That's why we have an action in the plan calling for the planting of 10,000 trees. And it's my understanding that that program under Sean has been wildly successful, and we've already met that target. What we, I think, as a biodiversity team recognize is that it's not just new trees that contribute to sequestration. Indeed, it's older trees that contribute the greatest amounts to sequestration. We also achieve sequestration through soils, through floodplains and wetland areas, in many other ways associated with natural features. And those have then a positive benefit on biodiversity, and then consequently on a lot of other things, our food network, on human health, on human mental health, and so on and so forth. So there is a precedent in the 820 plan with the 10,000 trees. There are some additional elements in the 820 plan that, for example, there's one action about equity programming. I think that includes aging in place, and there's activities that are that the city is pursuing in that matter. So there is a precedent, if you will, with the 820 plan doing this. In terms of the comment about the governance process and the prioritization process, I know that OSI has an update every year on its website about the priorities for the year. Indeed, as mentioned here, the number of actions in the plan is 44, and it says that they're working on 40 different, or excuse me, 70 total actions. So obviously, it's already a living plan. So there is the possibility of including new aspects, new actions, and reprioritizing those. So there is already a process in place for doing that. Indeed, there is also a governance process that's posted on the city website. By the way, the governance document still includes the word proposed. So it is not really entirely clear if that was actually finally approved or not. But in that document, it says at the very end that it's recommended that the 820 plan be formally updated every 3 years in order to recognize this change in the basic environment, meaning political, etc. And also that this would be a learning process to assess what actions are actually proving successful, which are not, which one needs to be abandoned, which new ones need to be adopted. So I think we would like to see this be incorporated into the 820 plan. The fallback would be that there would be some other plan, master features plan, as has been discussed before, that be more formally adopted, like the 820 plan, where you have assumptions, the entity that's responsible, timetables, indicators of success, and so on and so forth. That is really what drives outcomes, and we would love to see outcomes like the outcomes that the UK is hoping to achieve with its legislation. So, thank you.
Councilmember Dale.
Yeah, thanks. To build on that a little bit, and to also respond directly to some of the comments, the staff comments on our draft. A few things. One thing, there's a comment, let's see, this is on the 4th page, about the portion that says utilize, continue to enforce, and continuously improve the natural features regulations, blah, 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 blah. And the comment was that the UDC is already regulating this and that the plan doesn't recommend expansion of those protections or additional categories of protection. And so I think the first thing is, well, we're recommending that it include that. So we understand that it doesn't, and that's part of why we're calling attention to it, right? But then our next section talks about ensuring that the comprehensive plan includes these things, A, B, C, and the comment on that is that the comp plan has those elements, which if that's, it might be true, but I missed it if that is, and particularly the our B under that. I don't know if we're sort of pointing to it, about developing metrics to assess and track gains and losses in biodiversity and set targets. So, I think that there's yes, I know that there's language in there that's speaking specifically to balancing, development pressures and the need for housing with ecosystem services and those sort of things, and to utilize best practices. But I think that part about having metrics and tracking with the intention of increasing biodiversity is specific. And so I think two things there. To me, those two statements conflict. So like if above we're saying, the comment was not our statement, sorry, the comments added into our document saying that the draft plan does not recommend expanding the protections or additional categories of protection. If that's the case, then I don't think you can also say that the plan has elements that address things like saying we should develop metrics to assess, track, and gain and biodiversity, because you would need both of those. To me, there's a miss there. And so I think, to me, like that's more specifically what I am hoping comes from this is the need to have those metrics and be tracking that, the fact that even as maybe in some cases, trees do come down and you do have to balance all of that. How do you set a metric with the biodiversity? And that speaks to what John mentioned. And that's very tricky. And it's something we're talking about how to do at the university and set those metrics and criteria. So there's like a value that you can set to ecosystem services biodiversity. So it's not an easy thing, but it seems like something that's aspirational we should be working towards. And that gets a little bit now into the next section down where our recommendation was to update the A20 living carbon neutrality plan to make that a focus. And I take the point of the commenter, the staff comment in there that A20 plan specifically is not meant to be like a task list. And that many of the actions that support that are not particularly like directly listed in the A20 plan. So I understand that, and I think there could be maybe a reworked portion, maybe up for discussion, that says, okay, but these things should be showing up as priorities in those staff work plans, right? Is to start exploring establishing those biodiversity and ecosystem metrics, so that we can track it. So those are the things that stood out to me about the comments that we received on this, and maybe how we can think of it and move forward.
Well, thank you. So just a comment as far as OSI not getting this document until recently. As far as the A20 update, that's pretty close to word for word for what was in the first reading. So they had notification then, or could have. And also on the biodiversity work group, we have an OSI rep on that work group, and so there's been plenty of opportunities for it to get to OSI leadership. I don't know if it happened. I have no way of knowing that, but it wasn't like we intentionally kept it from them to surprise them. Councilmember Cornell?
Yeah, thank you. You provided a really nice segue. I think when we start to ask for specific work to be done or set specific expectations of staff, it has to go to staff first. And I think that it's a failure that it did not go to staff first. So the idea that like somebody sat in this group, whatever, I think the idea that this had multiple hands on it, but nobody really thought to directly engage OSI. Dr. Stoltz is incredibly responsive. That just feels like an oversight, and would have probably, all of these comments could have come in before it came to us again. And so my hope is that this goes to OSI and there's a collaborative discussion around how much will it cost to do some of the things that are being brought up, what is already included that might not be. This feels like information sharing that would benefit the community in terms of the work that OSI does and does well and is already doing, that perhaps this resolution suggests isn't happening. And I think that that's, I don't want to say language choices, but perhaps some direction that was suggested that wasn't necessary, that would have just been good to have had a conversation about before. It's always good to invite more voices.
Commissioner Graham?
Am I muted? Do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So, in my view, there are two major parts of our ask. One has to do with biodiversity, and that certainly involves OSI. And that's something to be designed and worked on, just as you say, council member, over some months or a couple of years. The other part has to do with protecting natural features that exist in the city and extending that protection from just applying to large tract site plans to all properties and all projects in the city. Why do we want to do that? And by the way, the Natural Areas Committee and the Environmental Commission started talking about doing this almost 8 years ago. This is not a new idea. This is something we've really wanted to do. We've been losing big trees on residential properties throughout the city with no control whatsoever. The natural features code language applied not to residential properties that exist. We want it to apply. We're going to lose thousands and thousands of trees across this city if the current ideas backing the comprehensive plan get written into code without any natural features protection. We are asking that they be applied, that little mini natural features plans be done for every project in every residential neighborhood on every site. And if there are big trees there, they are either not cut or they're mitigated. We need to increase the cost of that mitigation so that a lot of those big trees survive. Otherwise, we're going to have a whole lot fewer trees in the city when this whole idea that the comprehensive plan intends to pursue is done 20 years from now. There are very few wetlands on existing residential neighborhoods. There are some, including vernal pools, which are very valuable and important. There are relatively few, but some very important woodlands that aren't native forest fragments. There are some native forest fragments that fly over the top of existing housing. By native forest fragments, I mean something that is a facsimile of the ecosystems that grew here prior to the arrival of Europeans in 1824. We need to sustain those things. We need to restore and build upon those things to bring biodiversity, our native biodiversity, back into the city. There is no reason that we have to proceed so aggressively to build housing that we have to give up our trees and our native forest fragments and the places and open spaces and so on that are part of this city. Now, obviously, the range of zoning that applies to all of the residences in the city can be condensed. Things that are near the downtown, things that are near the transit corridors, clearly things that are open parking lots, things that are already commercial buildings, things that are already big buildings, you can make them bigger. But you start going in some of the less dense residential neighborhoods, you're really going to, first of all, get a lot of political flack by cutting down so many trees and doing it by right, as they say. We simply have to protect our natural features in the city as a part of, an integral code language part of, regulating and controlling how this development proceeds. Or we're going to wreck our city. And I appreciate there's a need from our people here. You want more tax income. I get those things. But there has to be a balance. And that's what most of all what we're saying. And a completely uncontrolled progress into the future is not going to work. Sorry to be barking.
Commissioner Dale, do you still have your hand up? Okay, Councilmember Cornell?
Yeah, I want to maybe turn the temperature down just a little bit. The idea that we cannot add density in neighborhoods without losing all of the trees and it being devastating is false. And I think that we can agree that as a city, we share values, and the idea that city leadership or city staff doesn't also live here and care very much about the place where we live and also want to preserve trees is just, it's a false equivalency. I think that we're saying 20 years from now, we will never have another tree because we're going to add some houses. I'm not sure what's going to happen next week, much less 20 years from now. So I would just urge caution and maybe care in how we predict things 20 years from now and paint a devastating picture when we could also be having a conversation around the ecological benefits of having more people live here versus commuting here. Let's just be careful about that. That's all.
Commissioner Graham? You're muted, Chris.
Sorry. Councilmember Cornell, I don't know what ecological benefit comes from building dense housing, especially if there are not controls written into the code to make sure that development you're talking about increases biodiversity and protects old trees, and protects native forest fragments. The ecological benefit of having them goes, let's talk about a project on Lincoln in North Burns Park where the zoning already has been changed. An old house that needed work was torn down. It had trees on the property. The property is completely clear cut, down to bare soil. In that neighborhood, the traditional zoning allowed a duplex to replace a single family house. And because the zoning had been changed, there was a duplex put on the front half of the property and a duplex put right behind it on the back half of the property. No trees were planted. Almost no parking. There was some in the back. Whether it was enough for the tenants in that property, I don't know. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. There could be big buildings on my property and no trees anymore. This is not going to take 20 years to play out. It's starting already. And I'm just asking, if you mean what you say, that you think there's no problem, then let's write into code the ability to control based on natural features site by site. Thank you.
Commissioner Dale?
Yeah, I think, well, I agree with Jen too. I mean, from like, I have an urban planning background and there's lots of stuff out there that says the best you can do environmentally is live close to where you work and in as smallest space as possible, right? And so, yeah, I'm, absolutely. But I think that is even more why having some sort of being able to have metrics for biodiversity is important, because not all green space is created equal and not all tree stands are created equal. You know what I mean? There's to pick and choose what areas to focus on or how to even just build on a site, to avoid certain species. It should be part, I know it is part of the consideration, but it's not codified to the degree that I think that we're hoping it could be. And in order to do that, you need the biodiversity metrics to have a more informed decision, to sort of just understand what those trade-offs are. So I think that's, I don't think we're talking that different of a language, for any of this. I think for me, a part of it is just having more explicitly calling for that information to be part of the decision-making process.
Commissioner Mirsky?
I would posit that within the biodiversity committee, as well as in the commission, as well as in the city, there's a range of opinions and thoughts on these matters. And what we tried to do in crafting this is come to something that we see as a common denominator, something that can be supported broadly within all of those groups. We recognize that density is supportive of carbon reduction. You need certain density in order to be able to support mass transit. You can't have low density and have sufficient mass transit. If you have higher density, that enables people to move into the community and or the ones in community to live closer to where they work. There's a lot of benefits to density. One of the ideas, or let's say in the spirit of the UK legislation, is that if you do development on what is currently a surface parking lot that accommodates, let's say, 50 cars, there's essentially zero biodiversity on that site. So mandating that there is an increase or a maintenance of the biodiversity on degraded sites, let's call them brownfield sites, means that you can do development there without a cost of increasing the biodiversity. So what it does is it encourages the kind of development that we think should take place, where if you have a surface parking lot with 50 spaces, like I said, you can probably put 150 apartments in a multi-story, multi-use development. So that's the kind of development that we think makes a lot of sense. We're not recommending any kind of taking, where we would then say the city does not allow people to do development. We're not saying that they can't take down a tree. We're simply recommending that there be mitigation in the cases when trees are removed, particularly landmark trees, or in a new class that we've recommended before, heritage trees. So I think there are voices of moderation reflected in this document. Being on the core team, I will say that it's I'm partly to blame for not encouraging this to have been considered by OSI, but we've been talking about this for over a month. We've in the committee for 2 months. We have had OSI representation in the meetings. And so, we have now an opportunity in the next month to talk about some of these things with OSI as well as staff more broadly. So hopefully that will happen. And hopefully the document reflects this middle ground that I believe that we found with the document as well as the cover letter that provides some additional explanation for it. That's all. Thank you.
Commissioner Graham.
Sorry, Brooks. And we've been doing very careful analysis and site work, mostly behind the scenes by the planning staff for more than 20 years to assess natural features on development sites in the city. That assessment has been based on definitions developed in the code and especially in the natural features master plan, which is going by the wayside. And it establishes a set of mitigation requirements, a set of policies really on 3 levels: high concern, medium concern, low concern. In the case of high concern things like heritage trees, that is old native trees, every effort was made by the planning staff to discourage developers from taking them. If they decided they couldn't avoid taking them, they had to be mitigated. That is to say, a fee had to be paid for each tree that was taken. Or if there was room to replant trees on their site, they would have to do multiple trees in order to replace one big one. Bearing in mind, the big one has a great deal more carbon sequestration, is a great deal more value to our environment than a dozen new trees that won't produce the same kind of results for many years, not in any of our lifetimes. This process has worked over dozens of sites with great success. I am so sorry that we didn't trumpet our horn about what we've been doing, how well it's been working, what the effects have been. The same kind of process can be applied to all development in the city going forward. The biodiversity part of it would be important to do, but that's going to take some design time. The natural features process is here, it works, it's available to do. The one statement in your comprehensive master plan that really bothered me, even though there were some salutary ones about natural features, it said the majority of natural features are on our parks. No, it's flat out wrong. The majority of natural features in the city are contained in the old trees across the city, mostly in residential neighborhoods. They're contained in the native forest fragments that aren't in our parks. We cannot proceed down this road without really well-crafted code language that extends the protections we've given to the vacant properties that are now all gone in the city. I don't object to densification at all. I get it. But I don't get it if the kind of thing that happened on Lincoln Avenue happens across all the residential neighborhoods. It doesn't work. Thank you. Forgive me for being emotional. Hard not to be.
Sean Reynolds.
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to provide a little bit of staff context very briefly. And I'll preface this by saying that I have not had any discussions with the planning department around this resolution, so I am not speaking on behalf of the planning department at all. But from OSI's side of things, I think we would really appreciate very specific recommendations on actions that could be taken towards carbon neutrality in regards to protecting biodiversity and natural features. The comment in there of, let me pull it up so I can say it directly. Update the Ann Arbor 820 Living Carbon Neutrality Plan to make natural features a sustainability priority with associated strategies and actions. We do have associated strategies and actions around biodiversity in there already. And so this, I think this recommendation just came off as a little bit vague, and we would appreciate more specific recommendations on actions that you would like to recommend that council perhaps direct us to take. And then the other thing I will say from the staff perspective is that I have heard from Aaron Donnelly that our planning department is willing to attend the meeting in May to have more discussions with you around this proposal and the comprehensive plan. So just wanted to make that offer known. Thank you.
Commissioner Mirsky.
Yeah, very briefly, it would be great if maybe someone from the planning department would be willing to meet with the biodiversity working group before the May meeting. I think it might be more productive if we did that. Same thing with OSI, so that when we bring something to the second reading, that we've already hopefully clarified a lot of the issues. In terms of specific actions, Sean, thank you for sharing your thought with us earlier this afternoon in that regard. I haven't given this a whole lot of thought, but one area that I thought that potentially could be included as an action is to reduce the number of invasive species, particularly trees, buckthorn and honeysuckle. I walked through a natural area that is actually a private preserve. It is just south of the Dow Field in the Arboretum, between Riverview and I forget the name of the other street. I happened upon the person that was maintaining the area, and he had just removed a large number of invasive trees from a section of that area. And he said what was so striking to him was that there were essentially there was no understory. There were no wildflowers, There were no progeny of the large trees in that area because the invasive species are so dense that nothing basically survives underneath them. And indeed, that was exactly the case with my backyard when I bought my house. It's currently still the case with my neighbor's yard. And you've got a couple of large old mature trees, and then you have a canopy that is about 30 feet high that is extremely dense, that is buckthorn and honeysuckle. So that is an area where I think this is just one possible action that we could take. I know that NAP is doing some invasive species control with controlled burns in parklands, but this is something that really needs to be done on a broader scale. And this is just one possible example of something that we could talk about. So I think to your point, Sean, you have an excellent point. And I think with some back and forth and some brainstorming between now and our May meeting, we could come up with some potential ideas for that. Thanks.
Yeah, Sean, I just want to echo what John Mirsky said. We'll be better off having smaller meetings with biodiversity, with one with planning and one with OSI, because I don't want to drag this past May. We should, in the May meeting, we want to vote on something. And if we have planning come in May, then you're talking June, we might not have an environmental commission in June. It's, or that'll be our last meeting. So we want to get this done sooner than that. And just as far as invasive species go, because I do a lot of that work for NAP, is when you have woody invasives or any invasives for an extended period of time, the biggest problem is the soil is damaged and it will come back. If the woodies were there for 20 to 30 years, you're probably talking 20 to 30 years to get the soil to come back unless we start doing plantings or other amendments to the soil. And that's where, that's probably what the neighbors have to do. It takes a long time. That's why it's really important to start and get it done, because it's not going to get any better by just sitting around. It just takes longer the next time. Councilmember Malik?
Hi, everybody. First of all, I guess just thank you for this great discussion tonight. I put probably more time into preparing for tonight than I normally do. And I still feel like I have lots and lots of questions. So I credit that to this conversation, and it's very thought-provoking, and I really appreciate that. From my part, I definitely, before our next meeting, do want to get to the bottom of some of these questions we have asked to the group, like from OSI and from our planning team. So I think it's great that we would invite them to meet with some of the subgroups. I think that's totally appropriate. Something I've struggled with related to, the comprehensive plan and stuff is what exactly goes in the plan versus what is kind of comes later. It's kind of been described to me, that the comprehensive plan is this very high level document so that it wouldn't get into a lot of details. And that's tricky because you want it to be detailed. You want it to say exactly what you want for the next 20 to 30 years. That is our vision for the city. And even, Commissioner Graham has mentioned like incorporating things into code. Well, the comprehensive plan, it's my understanding, is not code. Code would come later. So It is kind of finding that balance between what is actually appropriate for a comprehensive plan, the vision part, versus what does come later. And I totally understand, the desire to have guidance in the comprehensive plan for what should come later in the zoning code. So just finding, where that line is, I think is something I personally need to work on. And then lastly, Commissioner Dale, I really appreciate you bringing up the biodiversity metrics, because it is my understanding, that is something that could be worked on all over the place, not just in Ann Arbor, but statewide, nationally. I was just at the Michigan Healthy Climate Conference this week, and the push for metrics, for whether it be something as big as emissions tracking or something like biodiversity, that came up constantly. If we need better metrics, and we need them now. So I really appreciate you highlighting that. But that's, I guess, all from me at the moment. Like I said earlier, I really appreciate this conversation tonight. And I really value being on the Environmental Commission. And with that, just noticing it is 8:15, I'll hand it back to you, Chair Curtis.
Any other comments on this topic, or shall we move on to the next topic on the agenda? Commissioner Graham, one last one.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Malik. Maybe you can come to our meeting. State law requires the comprehensive plan. It underpins, sets the parameters of, makes the code that we write legal. It's required by state law. If it doesn't say somewhere in there that we're going to protect natural features as part of all projects in the city, that won't happen. Things have been going the wrong direction the last couple of years, and I can go back to January 23 and tell you exactly how they've been going the wrong direction about this matter. But thank you very much, and and thank you, John Mursky, about invasive species. You're one of the greatest advocates for a much broader interest in that problem in the city. I just want to say that even that's been a terrific success story. When I first started in business and began doing battle with these plants, almost none, almost zero of my clients knew anything about that invasive buckthorn out in the backyard and what the problem was. Problem being, so much shade is cast that you no longer have any herbaceous flora underneath, nor any regeneration of trees coming up through them. There's been a great sea change in the city of Ann Arbor about invasive species. Most of my clients now know what they are and are happy to have me get them out of there, but I better be ready to replace them with native plants. Thank you, John. Thank you, Commissioner or Councilmember Malik. I'll shut up now, Brooks.
So I would say, Chris, because I talked to a lot of people out in the nature areas, they all know the term native invasive species. They might not have a clue if I held up a plant and I said it's a Dame's rocket or a peony. They might not know the difference.
I got it, but they
If
care.
it's invasive, it's okay to pull it. So it's a start.
Yep.
So, okay, let's move on to the next topic, draft bylaws, John. If you can pull that up.
Yes,
Are you
thank
walking through that document, Sean, or how is that going to happen?
I think I can scroll through it slowly and
Okay.
you all can comment, but I do have, as I am pulling it up, a couple of comments to share with you about this item. First of which is that we are not bringing this to you for a reading or for any sort of motion to pass at this time. This is simply informative. We are hoping that after tonight you will have some feedback that you can provide to us that we may incorporate as we are updating this draft. So if you have any feedback or would like to put some red lines into the document, you can send that over to Aaron Donnelly before the May meeting when it will be discussed further. But this is just an initial showing of it to you for information purposes. So.
Sean, can you say concisely how this document differs from the current bylaws of the two commissions?
I was not personally involved in the drafting of this document, so I am not sure. I know that it draws heavily on other bylaws since our commissions have generally similar bylaws across the commissions, but I believe there are some it's mostly language that's specific to sustainability as opposed to environmental or energy commissions.
Councilmember Malik?
Thank you, Chair Curtis. And Mr. Reynolds, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but just, I guess, for a bit of background too. So when it comes to both the Environmental Commission and the Energy Commission, the Environmental Commission is in ordinance, whereas the Energy Commission is established only by resolution. I think that's the correct distinction. So that's why we're editing the Environmental Commission bylaws to add the Energy Commission bylaws. So to your question, Chair or Commissioner Graham, about what's different, I believe for the most part, they did kind of just fuse the two together. There are some things that, were updated to be relevant to, to today with OSI and stuff, adding more clear language. And then the last part that I think is new is kind of creating the annual work plan and then having like the subgroups that fall each year based on that work plan. So that's kind of my understanding what is different in these compared to what was previously there, but I am happy to be corrected if I'm wrong.
That is my understanding as well. Thank you. Commissioner Brown, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. In section 4.1, C, it specifies 2 non-voting members of city council, appointed by city council to be members of the commission, but that's a change from previous practice because council members were voting members.
And that's true of the Energy Commission as well.
Yep, thank you. I will note that and confirm what the if the intention is for non-voting or voting members there. Appreciate the call out.
So, Sean, I think the intention is non-voting for the council members, especially on things that they would be voting on again on council.
That was my understanding as well, but I'll confirm on that.
Also, 4.1A says 11 members. Right now, there'd be 7 from environmental and 7 from energy. So is the assumption that 3 people that are existing members do not want to go forward, or is that known yet?
Well, there are also going to be 2 youth members, so that would be 13 members
13,
total.
but I'm 4.1A talks about 11, which is not the youth members. There are 7 on environmental that would be of the 11 and 7 energy that would be of the 11.
Oh, 7 non-youth members currently. I see. All right.
Correct.
Thank you. I will double check on that number as well.
And maybe 3 people have expressed a desire not to continue. It's very possible. I don't know. Councilmember Malik?
Good flag there. I don't remember if this was discussed in Environmental Commission or maybe it was Energy Commission. Actually, Commissioner Mirsky, maybe that's what you're going to talk about. But it's my understanding, that there would, even if the combined commissions was greater than what's currently stated, that nobody would be forced off or anything. I don't know if we would need kind of like a transition sentence added in here that explicitly states that. That says in the event that there are more than, I guess, 15 total, that essentially you would just wait till they rolled off until you got down to the actual number stated here. So that's definitely a good question for, I guess, maybe even our legal team in terms of if we would need like a sentence that specified this transition period where we may have extra commissioners.
Commissioner Mirsky?
Thank you. Councilmember Malik, I don't recall that being discussed in the Energy Commission meeting, but it's an excellent point. And I think it's something that needs to be addressed. I like your suggestion. I am not confident that everyone on both commissions that is currently a member will want to serve on a combined commission. Some may elect to only want to serve on a working group, and that may be a solution. So we may not have a problem, but if we do, I like your proposal. I just wanted to point out that currently the Energy Commission has no youth members. So there is no conflict there. That's all.
Thank you. I will continue scrolling, but please let me know if you'd like me to stop.
Before we move on, Sean, last meeting, Commissioner Marson suggested term limits, which is what PAC uses to make sure they have rotation of members. Is that something that's going to be considered for sustainability? I think our PAC is the only one that has term limits that I'm aware of.
I'm just double checking to see if that language is in here. I see 3-year terms, but I don't see anything about a limit on number of terms. So I will check on that as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Mursky?
I'd like to express my own opinion on the idea of term limits. As some might expect, having served multiple terms on both commissions, I personally think that there is value in not having term limits because there's a lot of institutional knowledge that I think would be lost. My experience on both commissions is that the turnover is fairly high. So you're generally getting new blood. We'll certainly have that with youth commissioners because they have to be under the age of 25. So you're automatically getting fresh ideas and new blood from that perspective. Ultimately, council, I assume, will making this decision. Maybe there is a clause in here where the mayor could make a recommendation, and this may already exist. I frankly, I can't remember in the existing bylaws of either commission, that the mayor could make a recommendation to council that members not be reappointed. I know that gets maybe a little bit touchy, but maybe that's the way to address it if there is some stagnation and there aren't enough new voices cycling through the commissions, or this commission at least. That's all.
Commissioner Dale?
Two things. One, I sort of echo Commissioner Mursky's comments. I think I've been on for a couple of terms, but I still really appreciate the people who've been on longer and sort of the historical knowledge they have of some of the processes and things that have come up at different phases, throughout the history of the city and the commission. So I echo that. And then the second one is a question, maybe I missed it. But so if the terms are moving to 3-year terms, I believe it's 2-year on the Environmental Commission. I'm also curious about how that would work with transitioning, like bringing the two, like I'm assuming that people like, for example, I'm just using mine as an example. If I have 1 more year on this term, but then the new one is 3-year terms, then do I get that extra year now that it's become 3 years? I'm just sort of curious how that works with people when that means shifting what the term would have been. But that's, logistics of again, the transition and all of that.
Yeah. Right now, environmental is 3-year terms also.
I already learned something from somebody. Thank you.
And it does say they're going to try and rotate like 1/3 per year, but I would have to assume that's based on when people's terms expire currently, and it would just continue on at that point. So if you had 2 more years, you'd have 2 more years on sustainability, or 1 more year one. And if someone's renewing now, they'd be at 3 years on sustainability. That would be my assumption. I can't see any other way to make that work.
Yep, that is my assumption as well. But I will confirm that as well. Thank you. I will scroll somewhat quickly through the ethics and conflicts of interest because I believe this is all exactly the same as it is in the environmental and energy commissions. But if you have any questions about them, please let me know. Yes, Commissioner Mursky.
Yeah, there's one thing that, frankly, neither commission has done well, to my knowledge, and that is this annual statement on conflicts of interest. I don't ever remember that actually happening. I remember doing it one time. And it may have even been when I applied to, or not applied, but filled out the application for the Energy Commission. I don't ever remember. Where is it? Yeah, there it is, 5.7. So that's just something that maybe needs to be controlled centrally, where there's a notification that goes out to staff liaison and chairs of every commission saying it's the new fiscal year or it's January 1st. Please conduct this annual disclosure. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, moving on down to the officers section.
So on 6.1, there is a difference there with what's in environmental. Environmental, a commissioner could be chair for 3 years, then vice chair for 3 years and toggle back and forth. This has a 3-year total between either officer, and then you have to be a non-officer. So it's just different than what's there today.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that. I believe the rest of that section is identical to previously. I don't believe there are changes to the meeting section either. Yes, Commissioner Mirsky.
It says that 7 members constitute a quorum. Is that number fixed, or would that be based on a percentage of the commission? If there was a period of time where, let's say, a number of commissioners resigned, or somehow their term was up and they decided not to re-up, and let's say there were only 11 voting members, do you still need a quorum of 7? Or is it the greater of, or what would be maybe the lesser of no, it wouldn't be the lesser of either 7 votes or X percent? I didn't say that right, but I think you get the gist of what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Greater than 50%.
Yeah, X percent, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the case. That's the case certainly with the Energy Commission right now, with only seven members.
Yep, my understanding is that the quorum is always half or greater than 50%. So this 7 likely comes from the 11 plus 2 youth members earlier of voting. So more than half would be 7. But I will double check if we need to word this so that it says the presence of a majority of voting members in case there are instances where we have less than 13. Thank you.
Yeah, on the Environmental Commission now, its quorum is 8, but we only have 13 seated members. So. And, energy is in a worse shape. So it does make a difference. It would definitely make things a lot easier to deal with if it said, greater than 50% of the seated members of the commission or something like that.
All right, this Article 8, I believe, is where a lot of the differences come in. Commissioner Mirsky.
My understanding of the structure of boards and commissions is that we essentially represent the voice of residents, and it is a bottom-up process. So we are hopefully selected as being representative. That's one of the reasons also why we have youth members, and that ideas should percolate from the commission, as well as people talking to commissioners and through our networks. And we bring policy recommendations to city council, and city council's role of setting broad objectives and plans for staff. This sounds to me like it is turning that on its head. And I would appreciate either a comment tonight from staff or our council members why we're starting from staff and saying, commission, you should work on this. It's my also understanding that commissioners are, for example, not to work on draft language for ordinances and things like that. So I'm wondering what exactly would be, if you will, delegated or given to the commission to work on. It could be investigate a certain type of policy. For example, we heard what the UK is doing with natural features and biodiversity. Please look into that. I mean, in a case like that, there may be a high degree of overlap, but I'm wondering why this starts out with a top-down process as opposed to a bottom-up process.
Yes, thank you for that. I have not been involved in the creation of this, so I don't know that I am equipped to answer that question. I will leave space for the council members to potentially speak up if they feel equipped, but I will bring that question to the staff for sure. Oh, Councilmember Cornell.
Yeah, I think that in talking with staff about what would be the most valuable is aligning the work that we understand that where we are in terms of our climate goals, our goals have always been incredibly aggressive. And the idea that we could have a body behind our climate goals that actually would accelerate the work that the staff is doing would be, at least in this regard, really helpful. And so if staff could say, this is something that we don't have capacity to do, but we've identified as a priority, can you please help us with this? Bring your expertise to the table. Help us get this across the finish line or inform where we're going. That would be a lot more valuable and productive to what the city's already doing. And I'm supportive of that. I think that that's the point of what we're trying to do when we bring citizen voices and take the bottom-up approach, as you put it, John, as Commissioner Mirsky. If we bring that forward, that's the purpose of these in terms of supporting what staff is trying to do, the city is trying to do, and really put some tailwind behind it.
Thank you. Commissioner Mirsky.
If I may respond to that, that's not the way I read and understand this. First of all, Commissioner Queen, you mentioned climate. Obviously, the Sustainability Commission will do a lot more than just climate. It's clean water, it's clean air, it's natural features, biodiversity, et cetera. So it's much broader than climate. I don't think you may be just using climate as an example, and that's fine. What I would like to see is a catch-ball process or a collaborative process, but this is literally reads as a top-down. So staff is going to recommend a list of priority topics. It's going to be provided to City Council. City Council will review and approve the plan, and the plan will be presented to the Commission for implementation. That does not allow, or at least in its strict reading, does not allow for a bottom-up element of our work. And I would like to see the language of this change so that there is room for the commission to also bubble up policies. I mean, just look at how A20 came to pass. A20 came to pass when there was no Missy Stoltz, there was no OSI, there was 1/4 headcount in the city that was working on energy areas. Commissioner Brown may remember this. We had Nate Geisler, who's now with U of M, spending about 25% of his time facilitating Energy Commission meetings. So the whole idea of declaring a climate emergency and calling for a climate action plan bubbled up through the Energy and Environmental Commissions, and that led to the creation of an A20 plan and the hiring of Missy and the staffing of the department. This, if you read it strictly, this doesn't really allow for that. So I'm just asking that the language here be reviewed to show that there's actually a give and take here, and that the commission has, let's say, the latitude to be able to develop its own recommendations and work on topics that are not in a work plan that is dedicated or delegated from staff, approved by council, and then given to the commission.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I will bring that comment to the staff working on this. Commissioner Dale.
Yeah, Commissioner Mursky probably said it better than I will, but that's the sort of where I was going to. I would really like to know what would be most helpful and have that direction on the prioritization from staff. I think that would be wonderful. I want to be helpful, and I agree we have some expertise, and maybe some of us have the time and capacity to help out in that way. So absolutely. And I also agree that part of it's to bring what that expertise means, and we might have additional ideas of what we're hearing from people that we're out in the community and being those representatives. So yeah, if it can just be a wording change to sound more collaborative, and that together that work plan will be developed, I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Brown.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I have two comments. One is that there's something missing from our scope of work, and that is public health. The Environmental Commission had explicitly one of the topics it was asked to cover is public health issues. You know, like PFAS in the Huron River, the chromium-6 release, the Gelman plume, things like that. So I would appreciate having that included in there as well.
Yeah, thank you.
And then the second thing is in our current bylaws, we've always had a clause which allows the commission to call a public hearing. Now, I'm not sure what the definition of a public hearing is compared to a meeting, but that the public hearing language is not in this sustainability proposal, the bylaws.
Thank you. Yeah.
No, I did a search.
Okay. I thought I had seen it, so I was just double checking, but yeah, I'm not seeing it either. I see a non-working meeting, but yeah, thank you. Commissioner Graham.
The structure of the Environmental Commission was completely different than the other commissions right from the beginning. And I think I remember it was really established in another era of very aggressive development ideas, and a very strong mayor who didn't really want to listen to bubbling up environmental concerns against overzealous development. And the Environmental Commission has always been advising the council directly. It hasn't been advising staff to advise the council. We've always worked independently. And I would guess at least 50% of the things we've worked on while I've been involved have bubbled up out of our group, whoever they've been over all those years, and haven't either with specific instruction from the council and certainly not from staff. So these are changes being made here that are pretty significant for the Environmental Commission. I'm not opposed. I think it could be a lot of synergy between a lot of very different people putting these two things together. But I agree with John and Anya that we need to be able to bubble. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Scrolling down to the rest of Article 8 and Article 9. Right, and then Article 10, amendment to the bylaws, and Article 11. And that appears to be a blank page at the end. So, Commissioner Mirsky.
Thank you. As to point 11.1, there was discussion in both the Energy and Environmental Commissions that one of the reasons for the combination of the two commission into one sustainability committee was to better align with the organization of city departments and structure. I would ask the city to reevaluate at the same time the current structure, as it says right here, that both the Office of Sustainability and Public Services shall be the providers of administrative support. It seems to me there's a possibility that some of the functions could be combined under one head or the other. That's just a seed for thought. And right now, there isn't essentially an alignment because the Energy Commission in the past works strictly with the Office of Sustainability, and the Environmental Commission worked almost exclusively, not entirely, with Public Services. And so now we're combining one entity, but we're not realigning city department structure to correspond with the commission. So I just want to point that out.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
So the plan is that the new commission will align with OSI, or is it going to align with public services? Currently, we sort of have both for the Environmental Commission. I think Aaron is public services and you're OSI, right, Sean?
Correct, yes. I'm unsure what the intention is. It is written here, public services and OSI would be primary providers of administrative support, but I will look into if that needs to be changed to one or the other.
Both is fine, but
Are there any other questions on the bylaws? Okay, let's move on. Next order of business is report outs from committees. First one is biodiversity. Well, we worked on the resolution. I'll probably say that next month also. Circular economy. Steve, you're next.
Yeah, we met on April 16th. We meet every, I think it's the third Wednesday of the month at 4 p.m. So first thing we discussed is the city. If you look, the city has an entire webpage on student move out. This year, they have a remarkable coalition of local organizations cooperating to try to minimize the waste and divert furniture, bicycles, clothing as much as possible, from getting to going to the city landfill. So, that started on April 14th, with sports equipment being dropped at St. Andrew's Church. And April 23rd, yesterday, there was a bike drop off. If you wanted to drop off a bike, that happened, and then it's continuing through April 25th to 26th, and then May 1st through the 8th. So the city staff and needs to find volunteers. So there's a webpage up on the city site where you can volunteer for this, or you can talk to Sarah Mason or Jenny Petoskey about volunteering to help with this. I'm going to help out when I'm back in town. And it's a really big operation, and it's much better organized than it was in the past. The city's found the resources to do that, which is good because the solid waste, if you look at the metrics from year to year, the student move out is a big bump in what ends up in the landfill. So this is an important operation that we should all try to volunteer to help with. You can look at to volunteer, you look at this Engage website that the city has, a2gov.org/projects. So you can look at that, and you just look around the website. We're thinking about we haven't done much work on construction and demolition recycling lately, but we're getting around to the point where we'll resume work on that this year. And we heard that Lisa Dish on council is working on CND type issues, so she's going to update us, the working group, on the next meeting on May 21st. And just lastly, there's the Washtenaw County is working on its materials management plan, strategic plan. They are focusing right now on residential recycling, and then multifamily, and then commercial recycling. And Theo Egermont is leading this initiative, and Sarah Mason is the city's representative on that body. So they have public meetings. If you look at their website, you can see that you can attend the public meeting if you like. And that is it.
Okay, next is water quality, Commissioner Nedrich.
Hello. Yeah, so we had a BNIC schedule that I had to cancel due to childcare. But I was able to go to the city's Stormwater Comprehensive Plan meeting, which was last month. Highlights from that, we worked on drafting a vision statement for that. And also took a look at some resiliency data, looking at like climate effects and how it's going to change stormwater in Ann Arbor. So that was really good, useful exercise to go and be a part of. But yeah, water quality work group took a spring break. Our next meeting will be May 16th. So that's all.
Thanks. Energy, Commissioner Mirsky.
Thank you. The Energy Commission had a working session in its last meeting. It was focused entirely on incentivizing, driving, accelerating electrification, particularly in new buildings. That's a trend that we already see happening, but it's not entirely the case. And in particular, hotel developments are still in the general areas, primarily heated with natural gas. There aren't a lot of this. We do not have, I'll put it broadly, the community does not have a lot of latitude because of state legislation and codes. We primarily came to the idea that the best thing we can probably do is education and engagement with developers, architects, engineers, builders, and there looks to be the seed for a collaborative effort to put on a session in the fall that the Wolfpack is already working on. So it would be a collaborative effort between the Energy Commission or potentially our future commission, the city, U of M, and the Wolfpack to pull a convening. And we're looking at trying to get out-of-town speakers. And the university is actually working on a project that could be an exemplar for developers. The university is doing a convention center and hotel up on North Campus. And that's very similar to obviously other hotels and very similar to multifamily development. That's the major type of development that's going on in the city right now. So we're going to be pursuing that. So there looks to be some promise there. That's all.
Okay, for Parks, Ann Marson emailed me her update. That's PAC met last Tuesday. Here in Riverdale is returning to Gallup Park on May 18th from 12 to 4 p.m. Volunteers are needed. Parks is transitioning to warmer weather. Pools, canoe liveries, and golf courses are open or opening, and Parks is hiring summer staff. And PAC recommended approval of the fee adjustments and a proposed budget for the 2026-27 fiscal year. Is there anything from council that they need to update us on? Okay, and I have nothing else from chair. So I think next is report out from staff, Sean.
Yes, thank you. Let me pull that up really quickly. All right. From Community Services, the comprehensive land use plan draft is complete. So that is available up on our A2 Engage platform for review and public comment. You can also send feedback to planning@a2gov.org. From OSI, the Ann Arbor Earth Day Festival is coming up this Sunday, April 27th from 1 to 4:30 p.m. at Leslie Science and Nature Center. We are going to be there tabling along with NAP and lots of other organizations. You can learn more about that at discoverscienceandnature.org/A2 Earth Day. And the A20 heat pump concierge platform has been announced. Users can input home information to generate initial heat pump system design options in a process that takes approximately 5 minutes. You can learn more about that at osi.a2gov.org/heat pump concierge. From Public Services, the Stormwater Comprehensive Plan is underway. That is going to consolidate numerous existing plans into a single unified plan to guide city staff and inform decision-making and stormwater design. And the latest information on that can be found also on the Engagement Hub at engage.a2gov.org. And then unfortunately missing from this document that was included, but I was asked by Sarah Mason from Solid Waste to share, is that, let's see here, we also have on that A2gov, engage.a2gov.org platform, there is engagement around the food scrap drop-off bin project, aiming to make composting more accessible and convenient for multifamily residents who don't have curbside service. So you can learn more about that project and share ideas for locations for those bins at engage.a2gov.org or by emailing Mallory Lawson at mlawson@a2gov.org. And that's all I have for you.
Okay, next is items for next agenda. It will probably be a lot like tonight's agenda. We'll go through the resolution and maybe the bylaws will be on again. Depends on what comes up there. Next scheduled meeting is May 22nd. And now we have our second public comment. This is an opportunity for people to speak for up to 3 minutes. Please call 888-788-0099. Enter meeting ID 954-3473-9065. To raise your hand, press 9. To unmute, press *6. City staff will select callers who have raised their hand one by one using the last 3 digits of your phone number. When speaking, please move to a quiet area and state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. There may be a delay up to 30 seconds before a connection is established.
All right. We have caller with number ending in 6330. Again, that's 630. You should now be able to speak. You can unmute by pressing *6.
Hi, good evening. My name is John Godfrey. I live in Ward 3. And I want to add my voice thanking you and commending your work on behalf of the residents of Ann Arbor to preserve and protect the natural features of our city. which are facing unprecedented challenges from both climate change and the city's effort to accelerate development throughout. And I want to support in the strongest terms the Environmental Commission's recommendation to Council that the 2004 Natural Features Plan be included in the new comprehensive plan, and that natural features protections in review process be expanded for all new development projects, whether or not a site plan is required. To do so serves the public good and must be welcomed by all residents who prize our natural heritage. But I want to also extend a word of caution. The goals of the draft comprehensive plan include doubling Ann Arbor's population in the next 25 years. Incredibly, the draft plan includes no credible demographic or economic data or analysis to even support this as a feasible goal. But imagining for just a moment that this unprecedented development were to happen, it would wholly defeat our climate goals, which are embedded in this very comprehensive plan. The water, sewer, and stormwater systems that we rely on to protect our environment would be overwhelmed, and the massive capital costs that would be needed to upgrade our aging systems would divert funds from operational sustainability initiatives. Construction on the envisioned scale would generate insupportable embodied carbon costs and will rapidly accelerate loss of green space, landscape, the urban canopy, and other natural features that we prize, and will undermine our sustainability goals. In other words, our goals are self-contradictory. The plan is badly out of balance. Our environment needs protection, not depletion. And the organization of our citizen committees should serve the interests of city residents and not the interests of city department structure. Ann Arbor deserves an independent environmental commission to do this work on our behalf. Thank you for your voices and thank you for your service.
And thank you for your comment. I am not seeing any other hands raised at the moment. We do not have any more hands raised.
Okay, so for the next agenda item, the last one was the communication. So Sean, why don't you, we received a number of letters in support of the resolution, or emails in support of the resolution. I think Sean, maybe just splash them up on the screen, go one by one so people can see them. I think they at least deserve that much. We don't need to spend a lot of time on them.
Can you blow those up a bit, Sean?
Chair Curtis, do we usually do this for public comment that is submitted for each meeting?
We normally don't get any public comment through email. I think this is the first time since I've been on the chair, or I've been on the commission, that we've gotten public comment via email.
I'm just curious if there's a formal policy, because I can, I'm old now and I have readers. I'm just wondering if this is the best way to do this, or if we have precedent to do it. That's what I was trying to establish.
I didn't, from what Aaron Donley could find out, there really was no precedent. Some groups just say, acknowledge that they all receive them and don't open them at all. So we could skip it if people would prefer to do that.
These are all posted on Legistar, right? That's
Yes,
where
yeah.
Sean is clicking through. So
Yeah, correct. I honestly, even with my readers on, I
Okay.
can barely see that. I'm not saying that it's a bad idea. I've just not seen it done, and I'm wondering if that was unique to this commission. That's why I was asking.
Okay, why don't we just let people look at them on Legistar? So that is the end of the agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
My readers and I will move.
Okay. Seconded by John Mursky. All right, we're done. Thanks, everyone. Sorry
Thank
about
you so
running
much,
over.